Okay, we got 1 minute, so Jess.
Sure. Did you want me to go ahead and go through that now? Mayor Graham.
And Jane, you're here from Manitou, right?
No, I'm here from Green Mountain Falls.
Ah, there we go. See? And we usually have John here for Manitou.
I'm sorry, I'm here.
Ah, hi.
Hi, I just got in here a couple minutes ago, or just briefly.
Hiding in plain sight.
And we usually have Wayne. Wayne on?
Wayne is here, yes.
Okay. All right, we will call the meeting to order. I have my Kleenex box here. So our first item of business is the approval of the agenda.
So we'll go ahead and do the roll call real quick, just for the record. I'll
Okay.
write down everybody I see, and then you can move right into your agenda. So I'll do that for you real fast. All right, so I can see that you are here, Miss Holly Williams. Let's see, we have Director Gonzalez, Director Graham, Director Helms is new to us, I believe. Director Williams is here, Director Avila, Director Newberry, Rick, Bev, Mr. Dan Jablan, Jennifer Ivy, Andrew Gunning, staff of member governments. Is there any board members that I missed?
Dennis Carpenter, Mayor Rama.
Oh, yep, there you are. Gotcha.
Is
Okay.
Okay,
is Commissioner Geithner on?
I have not seen her yet. I will keep an eye out and make sure to mark it if she shows up.
She's the only one. I think we have 8 out of 9.
Yep. So with that, just remember to mute yourself if you're not speaking so we don't get your background noise, and make sure to state your name for the motion. It can get a little crazy and people talk over each other, and so if we have a name with it, it's easier to record. All right, thank you.
Yes, and we do keep hoping that Jessica learns all of our voices, but with all the committees she has to take care of, it's kind of hard.
I know most of them, but it can get a little crazy sometimes.
Okay, so the first thing we have is the approval of the agenda. Any
Madam Chair,
que-
move approval of the agenda. This is Wayne.
And
Okay.
Randy with second.
Okay.
Oh, okay, and I'm sorry, we should welcome our new members too. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Commissioner Williams, why don't you go ahead and introduce our new, or sorry, that would be me, City Councilman Williams. Go ahead and introduce our new member from the city.
Yeah, let me take the opportunity to introduce the individual who replaced David Geisinger on council. He happens to be my council member, that is Randy Helms. Yesterday, he was approved by the Colorado Springs City Council to serve as a new member. He's got a great background in transportation, as well as being, I know this shocks people to hear, a retired colonel. And so I am grateful that he's joining Yolanda and I on the board. And we have 3 new members of council. 2 of them joined the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Board. I stepped down so that they could have that seat. And then we also had an opening here. And so all 3 new members are jumping into being part of the regional collaboration, which is, I think, pretty critical. And so Randy will be joining Yolanda and I.
Okay, thank you. So I just got a message from Commissioner Geithner that she's having a hard time getting in. So she's going to try and call in. And let's see. And welcome to City Council Member Randy Helms. Did we have any public comment?
There were
Okay.
none received by email.
All right. So now what we have to do is we get to select a board chair. The board chairman stays with the city for the remainder of the year before it goes back to the county. We missed David. He had a great skill in running these meetings. And so we will open the floor for nominations for the board chair, and then we'll talk about if there's a contested race, how we're going to vote. And Commissioner Geithner is here now. We can see you, Carrie.
Thank you. Can you hear me as well?
Yes.
Okay, I was just having some technical difficulties. Thank you.
All
Chair?
right. Yes.
So we have 3 members of City Council. I serve as Chair of Utilities. Yolanda serves as one of the officers of Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. And so I would like to nominate Randy Helms to serve as Chair of Pikes Peak RTA.
And do we have a second?
I'll second that. This is Carrie.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other nominations?
This is Yolanda. I'd like to nominate myself. I've been doing this for 4 years, very critical to me. And I think you have to have some kind of understanding before you are the chair. I know it's happened in the past, but I think I've earned and deserved the time to be the chair.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I would second John Graham.
All right. Okay, so now I'm going to, I don't know if we wanted to take a minute for speeches before Jennifer describes to us how she's going to count the votes. So,
Madam Chair, I would move nominations be closed.
thank you. Is there a second for that?
Jane Newberry, I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, so nominations are closed. How about if we give a minute for each of you?
Sure. And I'm happy to let Yolanda go first.
Okay. I'll set my timer.
How long do I have? No.
Well,
Oh,
let's go for a minute.
okay, so I think I just started it out. So I'm on the RTA because of my passion for transit, transportation, moreover transit. I've been working in this field since before I was elected to council. I do believe that their seniority should count and having some experience in it. It's amazing how seniority counts in some areas, but it doesn't in others. I think I've earned it, and I would just like to have the opportunity of serving as chair.
Okay, thank you. And Randy, I'll start the timer now.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. I appreciate the time to let everybody know about me. So obviously I'm brand new to both the City Council and to the PPRTA, but I'm not new to transportation. Just as an example, 40 years of leadership in the United States Air Force, in the Air Mobility Command and the United States Transportation Command. Yes, this is not a bus. This is not a rail. This is a C-5 Galaxy aircraft. Not only have I flown cargo and passengers all around the world, more importantly, I've been part of the United States Transportation Command. I deployed to Iraq, and I was in charge of 2,000 trucks a day in Iraq. I was in charge of 66 C-130s in Iraq and Afghanistan. I was in charge of shipping that came into the port of Kuwait and all the trucks and rail that take to get out of there. One of my master's degrees is in Transportation, again, it's not the same. I understand that, but my experience in transportation tells me that I can lead as chair, and leadership is what it's about. And I have 40 years of leadership experience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as far as a contested vote, we did talk about what would happen if this happened. So Jennifer has offered her cell phone number in the chat. And what we're going to do is when you text to her your vote, it remains 100% private. Right, Jennifer? Go ahead and explain.
Yeah, so the open meetings law doesn't allow for secret ballots except for in very limited circumstances. One is when you're electing your leadership. So I did put my number in the chat. It's also, for those of you who don't find the chat readily, it's 810-287-1978. 810-287-1978. Just text me your vote and include your first name, please, just so I know who it is, since I don't have all of your cell phone numbers saved in my phone, just so I know that I'm not getting a random member of the public texting me now.
Okay, so we will open the voting now so that people can pass that on to Jennifer, and I'm going to vote and then come back and we'll start with the CAC report. So just give me a minute.
And the penalty for making me publicly announce my cell phone number is now I have all of your cell phone numbers and I'll be able to harass you whenever I want to.
We know math isn't what they really teach in law school, but we're hopeful you can count. And if there are more than 9 votes, there's an issue.
That's right. There's more than 9. I was glad that we had the 9th person because I was like, oh, with 8, we can have a tie. That's great.
So what would have been if it was 7?
This is Dennis Carpenter. Can I get that number again?
Yep, it's 810-287-1978.
978. Thank you.
Got it.
Okay, so would everyone be okay if we went on to Jim's CAC report, or do you want to wait? Okay,
You
so
want to do minutes of the previous meeting first?
yes, we sure can. So the minutes of the previous meeting were included in your packet. Were there any changes?
Madam
Okay.
Chair, I would move approval of the minutes.
All right, that is moved by City Councilman Williams,
Second.
second by Commissioner Gonzalez. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Jennifer, do you think you have 9 votes there?
I'm missing 1 vote. I'm waiting for Dennis to send me his vote.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm working on that.
I was a little slow too. It took me a bit. Now I get to program
Okay.
Jennifer's phone number in. And Jim, since we're almost done with this, we'll just wait. So the protocol has been that upon announcing a winner, I will turn the chair over. This has been really just a delightful opportunity for me today. It's been, I managed to call only one person by the wrong name. So, and I'm looking forward to working with whoever the new chair is.
Oh, and Holly, this is Lojinos. I may have to drop off at 2:15 for
Okay.
a call and then come back.
All right.
Also, while we're waiting, I've heard from Dan
Hello.
Jablan, who has to leave for a committee meeting at 2:30.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
So whoever the chair is might want to take the legislative report out of sequence. So we have at least 15 minutes to talk about that before 2:30.
Okay.
All right, sorry, that was, the phone call was actually the vote. Dennis's vote. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 votes counted. And the winner is Mr. Helms.
Okay, congratulations. Thank you,
Wow.
Councilwoman Avila and our new chairman, Councilman Helms. Councilman Helms, Dan Jablon is our lobbyist. So if we could go ahead and move up the lobbyist report first, we've got to talk about that massive transportation bill.
Well, thank you. Before Dan comes on, I just want to say thank you to Yolanda. I look forward and I'm humbled and honored to serve as the chair, and I look forward to conducting these meetings in a timely manner. And let's go with Dan.
Thank you. And Jennifer, do you think it makes sense if we start with your read of the bill first, then I'll tell you what's happening here at the Capitol on that?
Yeah, happy to do that. As you all probably are aware, the transportation bill was introduced. It's 197 pages long, so quite the lengthy bill, as many of them have been this session. Generally speaking, there's a lot of parts to this bill, as I'm sure all of you are aware of. There's one specific section that actually goes into the RTA law and opens up that law and makes some revisions to give MPOs, planning organizations, RTA powers. This is similar to a bill that was introduced last year, and we actually had successfully amended in committee to make sure that it didn't really do any violence to existing RTAs, such as the PPRTA. I can happily report that all of those amendments made it into this new bill. Last year's bill didn't go forward because of COVID. So that section that actually specifically addresses RTAs, or the RTA law, is fine. We don't really have any legal concerns with that. We don't have any concerns that it's going to impair the PPRTA's ability to continue going forward. The larger problem in the bill is that it sets forth a whole bunch of the goals for air quality and emissions reduction, greenhouse gas reductions that aren't specific to the PPRTA, but they are specific to MPOs, like the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. And the problem that means is that even though the RTA could arguably go forward with projects that don't meet these new criteria, which are at this point unknown because they're still in rulemaking, is that if the RTA was to move forward with those projects, it could jeopardize funding for future projects because the RTA's projects are all on the Transportation Improvement Plan, the TIP, that the local MPO adopts and keeps updated regularly. So if an RTA project was to go forward and threw projects on that TIP out of balance with the new criteria, it could jeopardize federal and other funding going forward, and which means we would sort of jeopardize our planning for PPRTA projects because the PPRTA projects rely on multiple funding sources for the most part. Most of our projects are funded in part by RTA funds, in part by county or city or whoever. Some of them have federal funding. So it really, even though it doesn't directly impact the RTA, it doesn't say the RTA has to follow those mandates, the sort of ripple effect affects the RTA, which is what our concern is. So that's sort of the overarching concern. So Dan, I will pass it over to you to what's going on in the Capitol, and then I encourage Andy or others to chime in because I know there's been robust discussion about this at many levels, including this morning at PPACG.
Can I interrupt for just a second? Mr. Chair, if I can speak for a minute on this.
You have the floor.
Thank you. So we did meet Andy Gunning and John Liasados, and I met with Representative Snyder to talk about some of these issues. We've also talked to some other legislators about the concerns. The primary one deals with when you build a roadway that increases capacity. And that has been many of the RTA projects, that you have to meet a set of criteria which aren't even defined as to what they are, but are in some cases passed off to the Air Quality Commission to regulate. And of particular concern, it wants to use some theoretical models based on induced demand. In other words, if you build the road they want to presume that that's what causes traffic to occur. And, you know, we've tried not building roads in Colorado for the whole 30 years I've lived here, and that has not caused traffic not to occur. But we're trying to work to have them amend that. So I just wanted to let you all know before we had the discussion from Dan about what's going on in the Capitol that we have been proactive in trying to address these issues. I would really hate for us to be in a position to say the voters approved in a road expansion, one of our category A's, and then to say, but the state won't let us build it. And so that's our concern. With that, I'll be quiet and turn it over to Dan.
And that is a good, sorry, I'm just going to jump back in because that's a good point, is that the definition, there used to be a definition in the draft bill, as we saw, there was a definition for what the projects were. I'm forgetting the exact language and I don't have it up on my computer, but there was a definition for what the projects were, and that was removed. So one of the ideas that Andy and I have floated around is that, you know, adding back in a definition so that those expansion projects wouldn't be captured, or maybe at least voter approved expansion projects, or something that would help us out and sort of exempt us out of those.
Yeah,
So
and
that
Jennifer,
I'll be quiet.
and Jennifer and I have talked a couple times on this, and yesterday I spoke with Representative Matt Gray, who had his hand in crafting this and was involved in last year's legislation. And I know that one of the Senate sponsors follows his leads on this very, very closely, Faith Winters. Matt told me yesterday, and then again the day when I was talking with him and Faith on this, that the last thing he wants to do is hurt the PPRTA, and he holds them up as a model of how things should be done. Unfortunately for us too, he believes our attorney, Jennifer Ivey, actually walks on water, and is very happy to be working with her and any suggestions we may make on this. I also know, Andy, I'm sure you know this already, that there is an amendment in the works right now on section 28 to make some clarifications. I have not seen the language yet. I was told I could probably get the language sometime tonight, but that is currently in the works as well. So they do know there are issues on this. We've been very clear with the legislators right now, the bill sponsors, that we have some questions and concerns about this. And I have been assured by everybody I've talked to, they are willing to listen to us and see what we have to say and try to make sure that the RTA is not harmed because of this piece of legislation.
And I'll just add, if I could, Mr. Chair, that Dan, that's good to hear. And if you do get some draft language for that change to section 28, if you can send that our way, that would be super.
Absolutely.
Yeah, two specific things that, you know, we might want to keep in mind through the PPRTA is, as Jennifer mentioned, there was a definition in the pre-filed version around what a transportation capacity project is, but then that was stripped out in the filed version. Might be a bridge too far, but it might be worth considering if they could define a transportation capacity project as one that's on the state system and excludes projects below the level of the states. That would involve, you know, PPRTA projects in our TIP that are funded with our federal funds, but aren't on the state highway system. So if it could apply to transportation capacity projects, it could just apply to state improvements and above. That's one way to maybe get around this. That's the one thing to keep in mind. If Representative Gray really does want to hold our RTA harmless, that's one solution. And the other is, we've talked about this a lot through the PPACG board this morning. If we could nudge the battleship just a little bit away from the Air Quality Control Commission and have the Transportation Commission as the rulemaking body for some of these requirements that are invoked within section 28. That doesn't get us out of some of these requirements, but they have a much better understanding of how transportation works, the relationship between MPOs and CDOT, and the need to build out a whole system. So that would give us a little more comfort working with the Transportation Commission than the Air Quality Control Commission, where we as a region have no representation on the Air Quality Commission, but we do on the Transportation Commission. So two things for the board to think about.
And I think that those are great recommendations. The one thing I would say, the one thing I have picked up on this, and Andy and when you guys were in the meetings and you understand this already, is the proponents are married to this bill, right? I mean, this is their child, this is their baby. They're going to defend it to the death. So I think if we can continue to have a message like that, two very clear, concise messages, I think we stand a whole lot better chance of getting where we want to get to, rather than get into big convoluted amendments or whatever. So I think that those are two great suggestions. And Jennifer, I think that's something that you and I can work with Matt on, like we did last year, on those type of situations.
Great. And I guess with that, I mean, my question, I think I posted an email late yesterday, was, looking to you, Dan, of what sort of position you would recommend that the board take, if any, to further our goals here.
Well, I mean, I would certainly say we're, just based on what we're talking about, we're in an amended position, right? We need to get some amendments to make sure the RTA is taken care of. I mean, we could go monitor. I mean, I don't know where everyone feels on that, but it certainly is a place to start on those two things, because we definitely need some changes to the bill to make sure that we have the protections we're looking for.
And Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to that effect, that perhaps we take an amend position and let Dan go out and fight for us, and Jennifer.
All right, I hear a motion's being called for to go out for Dan and Jennifer to make an amendment towards the transportation bill. Do I hear someone seconding?
It might be too soon as well before everyone discusses this. We talked for a whole hour at PPACT, so maybe we should let other people comment, because I've already heard the whole discussion. So that may have been a bit.
Okay, so before we make a motion in a second, there'll be further discussion.
Well, I'll go ahead and second the motion so we can have it for discussion.
Yeah, so it's been, motion
by
has
the way.
been made and seconded, and now we're open for discussion.
This is Commissioner Gonzalez. So I understand why the board may want to take a monitor or a neutral with amendments. Personally, I think it should be an oppose with amendments, but I understand the difference, from my commission position and this, where transportation may want to stay more nuanced in our ability to negotiate with the state. Personally, I think it should be an oppose, but I do understand perhaps the needs for the overall PPRTA group to stay neutral, but clearly we need the amendments.
But if we don't get our amendment, we can always move to opposed. Right.
I guess the concern with that is, with the infrequency of meetings, would we actually have a chance to move to an opposed position before this gets legs? And Dan, you'll have to remind me, because I know that the positions, the technical positions that you file, I think they changed in the last couple of years. So is there an option for a oppose unless amended? I can never remember what the categories are.
No,
I like to make every meeting I am in where I'm voting on these things, I make up a new category and I get yelled at. So
that would be a great category. It's oppose, amend, monitor, support. And then if we change positions for whatever reason, then I have 72 hours to report that change in position. But those are the current positions we could take. And I mean, I don't know that Matt cares or the sponsors care if we're opposed or not, as long as we're trying to amend it, but it just feels different. But I'm okay with any of it, just so long as we have our marching orders on what we're trying to get out of the bill.
So I'm hearing two different things. One, an amendment to the bill, and two, potentially an opposition opposing the bill. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
So
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
This Wayne.
Councilmember.
I will take down my hand now. So as a board, so I know some of us have positions supporting, some of us have positions opposing the bill as individuals or in our individual elected capacities. The question for us as an RTA board is, how do we best ensure the needs of the RTA, for which we are the directors, are accomplished? And the most important thing for this board, in my opinion, is for our ability to create projects and accomplish what we promised the voters we're going to do. And I have to tell you, if the next ballot issue is phrased of, well, we'll try to get these done if the state lets us, it's going to be a lot less interesting for people to jump on board and to support. And that's why I believe the motion, which is just take an amend position, is an appropriate one for this body, because I think we have to be focused on the issues that we're addressing right now. And that is, how do we ensure that our ability to build capacity projects, which is a lot of what the RTA does, is accomplished. Whether it was, we added Cimarron Bridge, we stuck an extra lane on the bridge. And so any of the things that you talk about with respect to capacity touch a lot of what we do. Adding a second turn lane, to pick one of the simple ones. We've added an extra turn lane at various intersections, including Garden of the Gods and Nevada for the entrance to UCCS, or Austin Bluffs as it changes title. But that's a key capacity project that has helped that school begin to blossom. And so to not focus on amending that, I think goes much farther than really where our focus needs to be. And Andy, with respect to your suggestion about just make it on local roads, we occasionally do an RTA project on state highways. We've done that with I-25, with Powers, or State Highway 21 as it's now called. And so just as we're working on crafting the language, Andy and Dan, to the extent we can get a broader exception for voter approved projects, I think that would be better than limiting it to non-state highways. So those are my two comments. Thanks.
You bet. Yeah, I think from my perspective, even though we may want to oppose the bill, I think it's really critical that we announce what we want done to the bill. And to echo what you just said, Councilmember Williams, that's my input. Other discussion?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Geithner has her hand raised. I'm not sure if you see that on your screen.
I do not. So thank you. Go ahead,
Yes.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. So yeah, I just wanted to point out, I appreciate both Commissioner Gonzalez's comments and also Councilmember Williams' comments as well. I think that Dan's assessment that the sponsors of this bill are married to it is pretty accurate from my interactions with the sponsors and hearing them present the bill. It doesn't actually sound like they are open to many amendments at all, and Dan may have a better assessment of that from his perspective. I think it's a bad bill overall, but at the same point, I do think it's important that we be able to negotiate those specific elements that are going to affect this RTA. My concern, though, in the position that we take has to do with what that position actually says to those sponsors and legislators. It's been my experience that the only response that legislators respond to consistently is an oppose. So I'd love to hear, Dan's perspective on if we take an amend position, that, whether that actually is going to move them and have them make us want to, make them want to work with us or not, just because in my experience, it seems like the only thing that they work to get off of is that opposed position. So it's more of a tactical question, but with the aim of having the same goal that has already been discussed.
I guess I would answer that question with Jennifer's and mine current relationship with some of the bill sponsors. I think they would be more receptive to our ideas if we were in an amended position than an opposed position. And then once again, if they're not receptive, it doesn't take much to go to an opposed position. But I think they would be more receptive to talking to us if we started out in an amended position and then moved either direction from there. But that's just what I think because of the relationship that we've been able to build with Matt and Faith and those folks going through it. And because they are married to the bill, they're super dug in right now. And you're right, they are not in an amendment friendly mood. So I think they would be easier to work with, at least on the front end, in an amendment position. But that's just sort of my thoughts on that. But I think if you polled 10 lobbyists, you'd probably get 10 different versions of that, because we all have our own style of lobbying. I like to give them a chance to work with us first before we get into their face. That's just my thoughts.
Dan, how long would we have to work with them before we needed to put in an opposed position?
Well, we just need to get an appointment with the bill sponsors and go over our concerns with them individually, maybe with some sample language, and see where they're at. I mean, we're talking a matter of days, probably next week sometime, we would know which direction we need to go.
And I do believe if we did do an oppose, we'd have to call a special meeting. What are our rules for doing that? Because we aren't scheduled to meet again until mid-June.
The chair can call a special meeting. I'd have to pull up the bylaws, or Rick might know off the top of his head, but the chair can call a special meeting with like 72 hours notice to the other members of the board. I'm pulling it up as I'm saying that. I mean, we do have the ability to have a special meeting. The answer is there is the ability to have a special meeting.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Geithner again. And I heard you kind of rattle off the positions that we can take. I know that at CCI, we have taken at times an oppose unless amended. Is that an option we could get to? That way there would be the flexibility to not have to call back for a meeting, but put us in a position where we are saying, if it's amended, we are, we will not be in that opposed position. Is that an option or no?
I think we can word our motion pretty much the way we want to, where that's accepted. And Dan would have a comment on that. Again, we don't want to confuse them.
I can follow your direction at all. All I know is on my state filings, I don't have that. So on my state filings, I would list that we're opposed. And then from there, I would just try to amend it and let them know, look, if we get these amendments, we won't be opposed. So, I mean, I don't have an option to check oppose unless amended.
If we voted to oppose unless amended, would you not be able to justify that as in an amendment position? And then if it doesn't get changed, then you could change it to an opposed position. I'm trying to figure out a way. I'm happy to come to a special meeting, but trying to figure out a way to give you the most flexibility with direction from the board.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you, from a legal standpoint, I mean, yes, the board can decide that they are in an amend position and that they're opposed unless it's amended, and give the direction that unless we get amendment language satisfactory to insert somebody's name by a certain date, that we will change our position to oppose, or more flexibility before it leaves the Senate or before it leaves the House, or give some timing on it. We could definitely put parameters like that on a motion to give Dan the guidance for how he would change his filing if needed.
So then my question, Mr. Chair, if I could, would be to propose a friendly amendment and to see if Councilmember Williams would be amenable to changing the motion so that we can get what we intend, but also have as much flexibility as possible to maximize the time frame.
So how about, let me respond to that if I could. This Councilmember Williams is actually Commissioner Williams's motion and my second, but let me throw out something that I think accomplishes what Commissioner Geithner is wanting. And that is to add a provision to the proposed motion that if we are unsuccessful in obtaining the requested amendments that the chair and vice chair can instruct our lobbyists to move to an opposed position. And that gives us the flexibility as opposed to cutting it to a specific time. And then the chair and the chair would notify the board of that. And if the board objected, they could request a special meeting.
I'm fine with that motion that Councilmember Williams has made. I think it gives Dan the most flexibility he needs.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with that. Well, we have to, if that's an amended motion.
It is.
I wasn't able to write it all down though. I wasn't able to write it.
So here are the three provisions of the proposed amended motion. Number one, we take an amend position and seek the specific amendments that we discussed. Number two, if we are not successful in obtaining those, the chair and vice chair can instruct the lobbyist to move to an opposed position and notify the board of that intention to do so. And if a member of the board wants to have a special meeting before doing that, then the chair will call a special meeting.
Okay, those are the two pieces that, am I hearing two different motions or
No.
am I hearing one?
One motion. One motion, three parts. Amend. Chair and vice chair empowered. Board can override the chair and vice chair's decision.
Is that your third piece?
Yes.
The override?
Yeah. Basically, we say, you know, if a member notifies you that we want a special meeting on it, then we'll have a special meeting.
And Councilmember Williams, are you requesting to amend your motion to say those three items?
Actually, it's a friendly amendment to Commissioner Williams' motion. And the reason why I'm willing to accept it is this is moving through really fast. And I just think that we have to give our lobbyists the most amount of flexibility possible. Obviously, if the greenhouse gas standards come out so crazy that we have to change our decision overnight, we'll probably call everyone on the committee. You know, so I think that while many of us are personally opposed to the bill, we've got to be careful to try to do what's best for the RTA.
That's right, Commissioner Williams, amending your motion to those three pieces. That's what I'm hearing.
Correct. Second concurs.
All right. Well, I hear a motion that's been amended to those three pieces, and the second has been amended. I'll open it up for discussion one more time so that our board can comment on those three pieces.
This is Yolanda. I don't think you're seeing the hands, are you?
No, I am not. I'm sorry. I am not.
That's fine. That's why I decided just to jump in. So this question is mostly for Dan. Based on what I heard Lisa say this morning is like, if we go in there and say we oppose or we're going to amend, but if you don't listen to us, we're going to oppose. I mean, what are our chances? Do you have like any percentages on that? And it's I think the way we go in that could make the difference, or at least be listened to. So Dan, I'd like to hear from you because this morning too, we heard from Wayne who was saying it's best to say we, seek an amendment and not really go into a monitoring or oppose. So I know you're listening to us and hearing all of us, and I think some people have been on the state legislature, but in your experience, what is a way, because like you said, this is their baby, and what is a way that the RTA, at least, I get that most people hate this bill. I get that. But to get what we need for the RTA. What is your suggestion? What's the best approach? Because when I hear, there's 3 parts to that, basically we're saying we're opposed to this unless you let us do this. And I don't know if that works. So I'd like to hear you, Dan.
Well, I think right now, if you're asking my opinion, which is just my opinion, is that, like we said, this is their baby, and I've never insulted someone's child and got what I wanted in life. I think right now we have at least some receptive bill sponsors that like us personally, that I think we need to go in with and they know we have some concerns, and they've said, yes, we understand, let us know what they are. I think we at least need to go in the first time with the attitude, hey, you said you wanted to talk to us. These are the things we would like to see amended in the bill, and see where it goes from there. I think I definitely, because I think they don't want to amend this bill. They are married to this bill. And I think if we go in a, hey, if you don't give us this, we're going to oppose an attitude right from the beginning, I think that makes them less receptive to what we're trying to do, because they're going to say, join the crowd of people who are opposing it. I mean, I think we should try to kill them with kindness, at least in the beginning. If we don't get what we want based on the motion, we've already decided we're going to go to oppose. So I don't think we lose anything by being nice when we go in the first time and saying, hey, thanks for talking to us. Thanks for agreeing to meet with us. You said you wanted to see what our concerns are. Here's our proposal, and see where it goes from there. I mean, I just think, and frankly, that's just more my style anyway.
I think that's a good style. So let's say we go in to amend. So I want to get clear from the rest of the board, and we say we have this amendment. So then we're all going to support it if that amendment is accepted, or do we want something more? Are we saying, yes, you've amended it, you're doing what we've asked you to do, and so now we are going to support this bill?
Well, I think, just my opinion, and based on some of these other bills this year, if they give us the amendment we want, and I know a lot of people on the call are personally opposed to the bill, I think our only obligation would be to move to neutral. I mean, if you want to support it, you can, but I don't think we need to move to support to get the amendment.
Okay, I appreciate that, because I don't know what happens up there. So I appreciate all that information. Thank you.
There's 100 people that are working in the chamber right now that don't know what happens up here either.
Okay, I'm trying to get through this vote here. There's a second vote. There, PPRTA support of the.
We can hear you, Longinos.
Yeah.
He muted himself, actually.
Sorry. Commissioner Geithner's got her hand up.
Yes.
Oh, and I should have put that down. I just wanted to say thank you for being willing to have to make that amendment on the bill to Commissioner Williams and to the second there. Sorry, I got that backwards when I said it, but I appreciate that. And I wanted to clarify that, that amend position would be the only thing that would be filed. So we would not be going in and saying, we're going to move to an opposed position. That is our internal dialogue, but our external dialogue to those sponsors would be that we are only at an amend. Is that correct?
Yes.
And yes, that's how I understand it too. All right, so that's an excellent point, Commissioner Geithner. As I understand our motion, we go in with our amendments. If they're accepted, we have no further discussion. Is that my understanding?
Correct.
Okay. In the event that our amendments are partially or not accepted, then do we readdress the situation as a board?
So the intent of the amendment is to give the chair and vice chair the ability to meet on that and with our lobbyist and discuss if we want to move or what we want to do. And you've got the ability to recommend or that we go to an opposition if we don't believe the amendments are sufficient. But if a board member objects, then we'll have a special board meeting. So it's trying to give us that flexibility to address things quickly, but ensure the process as well. And Dan's pretty experienced. He knows what he's doing
Right
there. And, you know, in response to another question, are there other amendments I would like in this bill? Absolutely. A vote, more general fund, other things. But as a board member of the RTA, I'm focused on what does the RTA need?
That's right. And I think that's exactly right. I think that's where we need to be focused. Any further discussion? All right. I think we need to bring the motion to a vote of the three pieces that were put forward by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Councilmember Williams. Is this going to be a voice vote or an individual vote? So we'll make this a voice vote. And is this something I call for, or do we have? Yes. Okay. For the our RTA board, I bring forward the motion to approve of the amendment and the remaining pieces of that motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
All opposed, say no.
Nay. Nay.
Okay. Did I hear one nay? It was an echo.
That's correct. Lahinos is opposed.
Okay.
Longinos wanted to make sure he was very opposed twice.
All right.
Oh, I'm
So
sure I got it in there. So I got to go to this other meeting. So I'll be back as soon as I get off this call.
Roger, I got you. So the motion passes on a vote of 8-1. All right. So I can see these meetings are going to take a while. Thank you, Dan, and everyone for this piece of our meeting today. I think we're ready to move on to item 6. Is that correct? And by the way, I'm not seeing hands up when people put their hands up. So please feel free to speak up if I don't see your hand up. Item 6, Citizens Advisory Committee Monthly Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is Jim Godfrey, the Chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Nice to meet you, Jim.
Same here, sir, and welcome to the board.
Thank you.
So our meeting was last week. We had a couple items I'm going to summarize for you real quick. One item we met on that's been discussed before the board before and handed back to the committee for discussion and formulation of recommendations was on the PPRTA 3 matrix. That's item number 8 on this agenda here. We took it a little out of order in our process. We did not finish that discussion, so I would like to, we're going to try to finish it next month. So I'd like to not get into a lot of detail now on that for in the interest of time, and then present to you a more complete list next month.
I agree wholeheartedly.
On financial reports, the CAC makes a recommendation to approve the 2021 budget amendment as presented. We also looked at the city of Colorado Springs had a, I apologize, had a contract to come forward on Centennial Avenue extension. The board may remember last month, the city pulled this contract. We had a lot of discussion last month in the CAC about this contract. I had a lot of questions about it. And while we ultimately recommended that the contract be approved, the city decided to pull that and not present it to you at the board last month. The city provided some additional information this month back to the CAC as an info item, information only item. Most of the information that was provided satisfied some of the concerns of the CAC members as they were expressed during our discussion last month. And so our recommendation for approval of the city's contract presented to you today on the extension of Centennial Boulevard remains that we recommend approval. We also looked at some contracts by the county and we concur with their presentation and recommend approval of those as well. And the city also came forward. We have a board policy number 12 that limits the amount of a change order request. And very typically on large projects, a member government can come in and request a waiver of that low dollar value for an higher dollar value so that they don't have to keep coming back to the process for $10,000 amendment kind of things. And so the city came forward with a request to revise that for the Centennial project, and we recommend approval of their request. The last item that I would just like to make the board aware of, I have been asked by the city to be on some community advisory committees for some projects and things going on in the city. And I am representing the CAC in that capacity. And so therefore I felt like that it'd be best full disclosure to make the board aware of that. I'm on the Connect COS, their transportation planning community advisory committee, and I'm also on the Platte Avenue Study Committee. So just wanted to make the board aware that I am on those committees. And as a result of that, because I'm representing the CAC, I will update the CAC on any of those discussions as we go forward. And of course, if it ever I don't anticipate that would happen. But if there is anything such as a conflict of interest in any way, I would recuse myself from anything that would cause a conflict of interest in any way. So with that, I think I've covered the CAC meeting last week.
Thank you, Jeff.
Questions?
Yeah.
Jim, make an amendment.
Go ahead, Brad.
I was one of the people, it was reported to the board last month that we approved it, everything, but it was a 14-3 or 13-4, and I amended my vote. Although we didn't take a vote, I wanted them to know that I revised my vote and voted for it. So it was a 14-3 vote for this, what you see now. I just want to go on the record. Thank you.
Open for any questions, sir.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? Concerns? All right, Jeff, thank you very much. Now, on the agenda here, we accept this. Is this a vote to accept, or is this an agreement to accept?
Yes, it is a vote.
All right.
This is
I
Wayne.
call
I
for-
move to accept.
Is there a second?
This is Jane. I will second.
All right, we have a motion to accept and a second to accept. All in favor, vote aye.
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 All opposed, vote no. I hear no. I hear no. Okay, the CAC monthly report is accepted on a 9-0 vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7, financial reports. Monthly reports is first with information. And I think that's Beverly.
Yes, good afternoon. Beverly Majewski, PPRTA Finance Manager. As you can see in March, for March sales and use tax, we just received $12,084,000. So we were over the monthly budget by $4,000,000 50.5%. And the budget was super conservative. That's why we're adding $11 million sales and use tax today to it. So that'll help out. But this is really pretty crazy how stimulated the economy is right now, as at least as far as sales and use tax purchases. So then on page 2 of this report, the next page, it's not up yet, but there we go. Compared to last March, we received 3.9 million over that, or 48.4%. So we're 26.7% over last year, just in the first 3 months. And then the next pages of the financials just show these sales and use tax numbers in the financial report and the expenditures so far. And we really kind of lag in expenditures throughout the year because of the way the billing process works with the contractors sending them into the member governments and then the member governments sending them to us. So you'll kind of see that trend until after the end of the year. So are there any questions on the monthly financials?
Good news, Bev. This is Yolanda. Wow, it keeps getting better. And I think a lot of it has to do with the online sales as well as all the construction costs, right, for materials. But I think this is a great financial report. It keeps going up. So I'd like to move to approve the report.
Okay, is there a second?
Okay, sorry, this is an information item.
Yeah, I thought this was just an information brief.
Got it.
But we're
Okay.
gonna go into the budget here next then,
Right.
and that is an approval item.
That's correct.
And do we open the public hearing first, or do we present it first?
Yes, well, I will, oops, sorry.
I think we would
So-
open the public hearing first so they could actually hear
Okay,
it, wouldn't we?
So let me just do my little spiel first, okay? So as set forth at the April 2021 board meeting, this was declared as the public hearing, and it's been posted in the paper. And the Citizen Advisory Committee made a positive recommendation to the board for the budget as it was presented. And the Pikes Peak RTA staff recommends that the board chair open the public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed amended budget in accordance with the board policy. After the board discussion of the budget, the board may approve the resolutions to adopt the amended budget and appropriate funds for the signature by the chairperson, vice chair, and board secretary. So what you can do, you can either choose to just go over some portions of the budget. I'll go over a page that has the additional 11 million that shows the allocations of it. That's a very overview of what we're doing here today. And then you can either choose to have some of the member governments give presentations, or you may wish to just ask questions. So that's up to the board.
Any recommendations out there?
Mr. Chair, I think this way, the continued growth in revenue indicates that we want to get this money out to the localities to be able to begin contracting and frankly planning for the contracting, because some of it takes a little bit of time to get done.
Yes.
And so I very much appreciate my colleagues agreeing to my request to move this up so that we can get the work started a few months earlier. And I think clearly, I think we're still being conservative since we're talking about an 11 million anticipation increase, and we're already almost all the way there after 3 months. And so I do think we ought to proceed. I don't think we need individual presentations from each of the localities, but if any of them want to say something, I'm happy to listen, or if members of the public want to hear it.
Can we tell if members of the public are online?
Yes, what you do is there any member of the public who wishes to comment or
Yeah.
seek additional information?
So if we could just, this is Jennifer Ivy, if we could just officially open the public hearing. I know it's a legal technicality, but we have to officially open the public hearing.
I make a motion that we open, I'm sorry, I call for a motion to open the public hearing.
Actually, I think you can just do that by your action, just declare it open.
Okay, as the chair, I open this meeting to public opinion. It is now open. Is there, and I would reach out to our public. If you're on the line, please come forward, state your name and your question.
So just checking, I do see Reb, you still have your hand up. I'm assuming you don't have any public comments since you were on the CAC. But
Yeah,
if you
again, I don't see the hands, so please speak up if you have a hand up.
If you look at the gallery view, you can see the hands.
Yeah,
there.
I keep, I'm on my cell phone, so it's a smaller
Okay.
versus my computer on this, so.
Okay.
All right.
And Jessica, do you have any emails concerning this budget?
Nope, we received no public comment via email. So, and I don't see anybody else in the public in our audience here either wishing to speak. So we can probably close it.
Okay, as the chair, I will close the session for public comment and we'll move forward with the agenda item. And I think we were ready for, unless someone wanted to discuss one of the parts. I think there were 3 parts. Did anyone want to discuss that?
Mr. Chair, seeing none, and with the public hearing closed, I would move approval. And I know this one's a little bit more complex than some of the ones we do. And so I would move approval of the resolution for the budget and both for the recognizing the revenue and the resolution to appropriate sums of money and for the budget amendment. Is there anything else I need to include in that, Jennifer?
You got the components. Thank you.
All right. So with that said, I will call for a motion to approve the budget amendment. And
so moved.
I ask for a second.
Well, second, John Graham.
I have a motion to approve and a second. I now call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the budget amendment and the additional items?
Aye.
Aye.
Vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. I hear none. Therefore, the budget amendment has passed on a vote to 9-0. Thank you very much, Beverly. Appreciate that. Let's see. Item 8. So we're going to get into the capital maintenance and public transportation contracts. And we have 3 approvals on it. So let's see who is up. Let me scroll to my screen.
My
There's a lot
turn usually starts with the city of Colorado Springs.
This is Gail Sturtevant. I'm actually going to be taking the presentation for the city today, Commissioner.
All right, Gail, please do.
All right, thank you. So my name is Gail Sturtevant, City Engineer and Deputy Public Works Director for the City of Colorado Springs. We have 1 contract that we'll be presenting to the board today for their approval. It is the Centennial extension contract that was mentioned by the CAC and Mr. Godfrey earlier today. The city is requesting that we award the Centennial extension contract to SEMA Construction They would be completing what is the last phase of basically what's been a 3-phase project to complete that work. This project happens to have some complexity to it because of the nature of the earthwork contract that's currently going on right now, along with the voluntary cleanup. And because of the nature of these two contracts, we've set this up in a construction management / a general contractor or CMCG type work, where the city is going to be owning the contracts with the 2 separate construction contractors, and then employing a construction manager to help us deliver that work. With all these complexities in the project and looking at the city's procurement rules, we did have to go through an RFP or request for proposal process due to these technical components. And we did make the selection based on the best value to the city. SEMA's proposal demonstrated a clear understanding of the impacts, a detailed schedule that was going to best suit the city's needs and the business community and those that are living nearby. And they also demonstrated exceptional construction experience in the CMCG realm. So their price after the best and final offer ended up being 16.8% below the engineer's estimate. And we are asking for the board's approval for this contract. And I'm available for additional questions.
Thank you, Gail. I do have a question there. I see you listed out the received an order of final ranking for the different contractors there.
Yes.
Was there any discussion was there any discussion at all? Was there any between number 1 and number 2, or number 1, 2, and 3, or was it close, or was it?
The top 3 were relatively close, but we felt like we made the best value selection based with the selection criterion scoring.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, this is Wayne. I do support this. I had some questions, as did members of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I asked the city to go back and look at it and review it. They did that. They provided some additional information, and I therefore move approval of the contract.
Yeah, thank you for that. That gives me some context too on previous information on this type of area.
Commissioner Williams, I will second.
So I hear that we've had a motion to approve this, and I just heard a second from Commissioner Williams. And so with that said, now, are we doing all 3? Are we voting for all 3 items at one time? I want to make sure everyone understands that that is correct.
Typically, we approve the city contracts individually, and there's one for that, and then we'll have a separate one for the other.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, we have it separate for the El Paso County and then the Manitou Springs. So roger that. So
this is approving 8A.
Yeah.
This is Commissioner Gonzalez.
Go ahead, Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thanks. Is this the one that was pulled from last month's board meeting?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Okay, and I think the question last month, I didn't hear it brought up here, although I had to step out for another second and run back in, was there was another, this is like $1 million more than another contractor's submission?
Approximately, yes, sir.
Okay, so I just want to put that on the record, but the city believes this is the more, what was the proper term?
It's the best value selection in accordance with our procurement procedures.
Okay, I'm gonna go with your recommendation, but yeah, that I did see that, and I just want to put that on the record. This was there was another one that was probably about $1 million less than this. Okay.
Yeah, Commissioner, I do have a comment on that. I was listening. You may have been out when City Councilman Williams made a comment. I think that's what he was commenting about. He had questions on it too.
Okay, thanks. You saw me run out. There was a bunch of conversation. I had to close the door. Right. Okay, thanks, Wayne.
Okay, I've had a motion. I think I've had a motion to approve, and I've had a second, and I open up for further discussion. I hear none. I will ask for a vote to approve item number 8A for the City of Colorado Springs, the contract. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. I hear none. Therefore, the motion has passed on a 9-0 vote. Thank you very much, Gail.
Thank you.
Up next is the contracts for El Paso County. And let's see, who do we have? Is that Jennifer?
Jennifer Irvine usually is on. Is Jennifer on?
Jennifer, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right.
And Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County County Engineer, and I apologize. I don't have great internet connection at my office, so I am not joining you with video, but I do look forward to working with the new members on the board of directors. So
thank you.
Good afternoon. We have 5 items for your consideration on our contracts list today. The first is our annual 2021 concrete contract, and we are requesting a purchase order with Olganik Enterprises for $1.5 million. The second item is our 2021 asphalt pavement overlay contract. This is a purchase order for $5 million with Martin Marietta Materials. Our third and fourth item are both related to our Beacon Light Road improvement projects. The first item is a agreement and purchase order with the Area Electric Association on the northern end of the county there. And we are having to relocate some line with that intersection at Beacon Light and County Line Road. And so that relocation cost is approximately $115,000. The next item for Beacon Light Road is a contract amendment and purchase order. This is the next phase of design for the second phase of Beacon Light Road improvements. And this is for final design of that phase. And so that is with Michael Baker International, and that is for approximately $475,000. And then finally, contract amendment and purchase order with AECOM Technical Services, and that is our design vendor. We are closing out Monument Hill Road safety improvements, and so that contract amendment is for $31,000. I'm asking for your approval on all of these items today, and I'm available for any questions.
All right, are there any questions or discussion before we make a motion? All right, I call for a motion to approve the contract for El Paso County on all the items that Jennifer listed.
Move to approve.
Oh, Commissioner Williams, second.
Commissioner Williams seconded the motion. The motion has been seconded. I now call for a vote to approve the items listed. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. I hear none. The motion has passed for the El Paso County contracts. Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate that as we're moving forward into the city of Manitou Springs. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you. The request today is to use PPRTA funds to do some demolition work at a transportation hub that we're developing. It's a parking lot. There was an old restaurant there. The building is standing. A good portion of that building has been deemed unsalvageable. So we would like to use funds of approximately not quite $173,000 to do a selective demolition of that property. That would increase our parking area, and it would, that particular site it's a little east of downtown Manitou Springs, so that's become a transportation hub. We have the Colorado Springs, or the Mountain Metro Transit has several routes that terminate at that position, so it's a pretty active area. We would like to go ahead and we wanted to check and make sure that this was a legitimate use of PPRTA funds so that we could go ahead and continue to develop the area. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions? So I will ask for a motion to approve the contracts for Manitou Springs.
Yolanda, move to approve.
I ask for a second.
I'll second. John Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A motion has been made and seconded. We'll now go to the vote. All in favor of approving the contracts? Vote aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All opposed, say no. There are none. The motion has approved. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. As we move on to item 9, other reports, City of Colorado Springs Transit Services monthly update, and this is for information.
Good afternoon, honorable board members. I'm Craig Blewett. I'm the Transit Services Manager with the City of Colorado Springs. Our report is in your agenda packet. I'd like to just go over some highlights of that report. I'd like to start, I guess, with an overarching comment. You know, in these reports, we show ridership this year compared to ridership during the same months the previous 2 years. And starting with this report for March, we're starting to compare to times last year when the pandemic effects were taking hold. So we were comparing to pre-COVID months. We're now comparing to COVID months from the previous year. But looking at these numbers for March of 2021, it's clear that our ridership recovery has begun. Looking at fixed route, comparing just March of 2021 to February 2021, in 1 month's time, our ridership increased by 26%. We went from 115,000 rides in February to 145,000 rides in March. So as the community is opening up, as people are traveling more, our system ridership is recovering. Looking at the ADA service on page 2, similarly, we're still, down in ridership compared to pre-COVID, but we had a 21% increase in ridership on ADA from February to March. And what's happening there is some of the adult day programs are starting to open up as well, and they are a good share of our ridership. As those things open up, our ridership is increasing. On the specialized paratransit, the taxi choice option. So March was the first month of resuming the taxi option. So that's just getting restarted. So we just had a few rides, but for new members, just real quickly, what that taxi option is if someone calls for an ADA paratransit ride and they have the ability to use a taxi, we will offer a taxi option. So they may use a taxi, and we do work with Z-Trip here in town for that.
Who gets to determine that?
To determine which?
The part about whether or not to use a taxi or not. Is that a individual thing or?
Yeah, it's an individual choice, but some of our riders have the ability to cognitively to use a taxi. Some will still require our ADA door-to-door service. So, but anyone who is able to use a taxi, we do offer that option.
Thank you.
You bet. And then on the van pool side, that recovery is a little slower. These are mostly folks, I think 2/3, 3/4 of our van pools go up to Denver, serving the downtown Denver area. What's interesting looking at the numbers, we had the same number of active riders in March compared to the previous month, February of 2021, about the same number of active riders, but we had about twice as many trips. So that's starting to come back as well. I will note that on Vanpool, it's a scalable program. So the vans we are driving still are full of passengers. We don't do vans with just 1 or 2 people. They are full, but there are fewer vans going than there were pre-COVID. On the project update side, we list again our spring service changes. Those are finalized and ready to go. The new bus route out to Amazon and the airport terminal will start on on June 13th. And some of the changes with the Manitou shuttles, Route 36 extension is going to start, we estimate, in August. We're coordinating very closely with the city of Manitou. There's a major construction project on West Manitou so we're not going to extend until that road is ready, and we expect that to be around August 1st. And then the other changes, we did decide to continue the higher frequency of the Manitou Incline shuttle, Route 33, during the peak season. So that was one included in our budget amendment you just passed earlier on in the agenda, was a one-time funding of that second bus that allows 10-minute frequency instead of 20-minute frequency during the weekends and peak season. And then, but we did go ahead and reduce the operating hours, or we're going to, starting in September, of the off-season service. And it'll end at 6 o'clock p.m. instead of 8 o'clock p.m. I think we noted before that went through a public process. There was very little ridership after 6. And so that's really a good business decision on everyone's part. That's all I have in my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Craig.
You're welcome.
Is anybody got a hand? I'll look to see if anybody's got a hand up. I don't see a hand. I do have a question back on B, reduced operating hours in the off season.
Yes.
Did you run surveys or anything like that to determine the times to narrow it down to? Was there any kind of analysis to that?
Yeah, there was. We do have boarding information, and we know when and where riders board. And so we looked at that boarding information, and it was, again, very, very low after 6 p.m. And then we also did a public process as well. And we actually had a really good participation engagement in our public process. Actually, we have more people participating virtually than we have in the past with in person. And there was very little concern from the public as well.
Okay. And did you get any negative feedback, when you do start narrowing the time or reducing the time?
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. That'll start in September. So
Right.
That'll start when the and we do track complaints and comments, concerns and accommodations, and so yeah, we will track those, and if there's something significant, we will report that back.
All right. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. That was really good.
Thank you.
Okay, this was an information briefing. Anybody else discussions or comments?
I do. This is Yolanda. Craig, are we at full capacity in ridership?
So are you referring to the limit on number of passengers in a bus?
Yeah, it was 50% before, so.
Yeah. Yeah, we are now at 75% for a cap, council member. So it was a state mandate, and that state mandate went away a few weeks ago. We decided to keep it at 75% for the time being, and then continue to assess community conditions. And we hope to go to 100%, hopefully sometime in the near future.
Are we leaving people behind at 75%?
Very few, and the ones that we are leaving behind are actually on the Manitou Incline still, especially on busy weekends, warm weather and so forth. But the rest of the system, I'll check again, but we expected it to be very few.
So it's an administrative decision with your department to stay at 75%?
Yes, it is. It's a city decision, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Anyone else?
Yes, this is John Graham, Manitou Springs. Relative to Mr. Bluert's comments about the incline, I think they've optimized that. What they're doing is, I think, pretty wise. There's almost no ridership late in the day for the route that they're talking about reducing. And really, Mountain Metro stepped up to the plate during our busy season. So although he just made the comment that we're sometimes having to leave incline people waiting, the service is still quite good. We'll have 10-minute service during the peak times of the summer. So I don't think you can do much better than that. So
thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and that's great context. I really appreciate that. Okay, anyone else? With no one else, we'll move to 9B and request for the addition of policy 12 for Centennial Boulevard extension. And this will be an approval on this particular one. Looks like, is Gail up again for this?
I am, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
The city is respectfully requesting that the board accept the CAC's recommendation and ultimately approve the city's request to add the Centennial section construction contract to policy 12. This change would allow us to have individual change order threshold change from $25,000 to $100,000 per incident, or up to a 10% aggregate without the board of directors approval. I'm available for questions, and we respectfully request the board's approval of this request.
Thank you, Gail.
Chairman?
Go ahead,
Chairman,
Councilman Williams.
This Wayne, I would move approval.
Oh, I hear a motion for approval. Do I get a second?
I will second John Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a motion and a second. Let's take a vote. All in favor of approving this number 9B? Vote aye.
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 All opposed, vote no. We have none. The motion has been approved.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Gail.
And to the rest of the board.
Okay, let's see. We're moving on to 9C, which is information. And for the City of Colorado Springs monthly change order and property acquisition report. Let's see who we have up for that. I show Rick Sonnenberg. Nope. Did I jump ahead there? I think I did. Who do we have
I
speaking?
believe that would normally be Mr. Chavez, but he's not here.
So
Okay.
Gail should handle that
Okay.
then.
Gail, are you up for that?
I am. This is an informational item on our change order, so if we could get down to that page. And then myself and others from city staff are available if there are questions.
I know I don't have any. Are there any questions out there in Zoom land? I don't see any hands up. Thank you, Gail. Appreciate that. So we're moving along to 9D, El Paso County monthly change order and property acquisition report.
Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County, County Engineer. I'm available for any questions that anyone might have in regards to our items this month. Thank you.
Those are pretty pricey land acquisitions there, Jennifer.
We make good deals in the county.
Jennifer, as long as we stay away from that West Colorado type increases, I'm happy.
All right. I see no hands up. Any other questions? All right, we've completed item 9. We're moving along to item 10, administrative actions and reports. All right, resolution designated an official custodian for the Colorado Open Records Act is the first thing up for approval. And let's see. That would be Rick Sonberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The PPRTA attorney is recommending that the board pass a resolution designating an official custodian for the Colorado Open Records Act, commonly called CORA. We have, in the 16 years of PPRTA, we've probably only had 2 or 3 CORA requests, but the PPRTA attorney is recommending that we formalize this in a board resolution designating the official custodian to be the board secretary. That's currently me, to adopt rules and handle CORA requests as they come in. So it's an approved item, recommending the board pass a motion adopting this resolution.
All right, I'd like to open the floor for a motion to approve item 10A.
Commissioner Williams, I move approval.
I look for a second.
Second, John Graham.
I have a motion and a second. I move for a vote. All in favor of approving the motion for the Cora, vote aye.
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 All opposed, vote no. I hear none. The amendment for 10A, the Cora records is approved. 10B, which is legislative reports. And let's see who's up for that. Okay, I don't see a name on that.
Mr. Chair, we took that out of sequence and.
That's right. It's Dan, way back at the beginning. Very good.
I did.
Wow.
I did forget, we may have one other item on that legislative report. We know.
All right,
that
Commissioner.
we're a little bit nervous, and I don't know if this board would like to take a position on this, but we're a bit nervous that there might be some efforts to split El Paso County. And we think we do all at the congressional level, we think we do better all together. I didn't know if that should be maybe put as an item next month or if we should consider it this month.
What's the timeliness of this, Commissioner? Can it wait till next month, or is this something that's going to happen?
They're drawing draft maps now and
oh yes,
beginning the process. So I think we ought to act now, and you know, this community works really well together. This RTA is one of those examples that's been cited across the state, and clearly we have a strong community of interest. So I know PPACG prepared a letter and presented it, and it got unanimous approval today. And I think we could sign the same letter for Pikes Peak RTA, and I would so move.
All right. Do you have any highlights of that, Council Member Williams?
It basically cites the history of the 5th Congressional District being on its own, and then recommends, because of population changes, we are very close to the ideal population by our county. And so it is simply advocates for keeping El Paso County as its own district, and cites all of the different community interests we have, whether it's the health department, the RTA, the Council of Governments, and a host of other things that make it so we are all neighbors and much more in common with each other than folks in Douglas County or in Pueblo.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
I'd second that motion as well.
All right. I think we've had a motion, and I just heard a second to approve, as I understand it, joining in on is it a resolution that we stay one county as far as the redistricting and not split us up? All right.
It would actually do, the motion is to do our own letter, but pattern it on the PPACG.
Pattern on it. Got it. Okay, good. Thank you for that clarification. With that said, go ahead.
Yolanda, so are we allowed to do this when this isn't even an agenda item? Or is it?
It's under the legislative agenda item.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pausing because
I'm thinking you can, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? We've had a motion and a second. More discussion on this issue before we take the vote.
Well, I'm going to disagree. I think we're our neighbors too. I consider Pueblo our neighbors, and different areas our neighbors, and there's a much more diversity. So I'm not in line with this. What goes on here is a lot of, it's the same type of ideology and thought. So I'm not in agreement with this.
Okay, that's why, I don't want to jump too fast into voting for this. I do want to keep it open for some further discussion from our other members.
Commissioner Geithner has raised her hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Geithner.
Sure.
ahead.
I just want to, as a seconder of the motion, Councilmember Williams described that, we are a community of interest. We have lots of overlapping governmental agencies. And so, the real reality here is just this is a way to keep our community of interest together. As a commissioner for the entire county, I can certainly say I can see the difficulties that arise from splitting up those interests. It's a very diverse county, and we've managed to work really well together cooperatively, and I'd just like to see that continue. And that's my biggest reason for supporting this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, any other discussion? I hear none. I have a motion and I have a second. Discussion is complete. All those in favor of the motion to approve, vote by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, vote no.
No.
I have a vote of 8-1. The motion has passed. And that's included in 10B, legislative reports. We move to item 11, PPRTA, member announcements. The floor is well, can I say the floor is open? Or I'll go around the horn for individuals.
Floor is open.
Yes, the floor is open. Hey, it's quiet out there my first day as a member and as chair. I'll take this opportunity just to say thank you to the members of the board who have elected me as chair. I look forward to learning. Again, as I said in the beginning, I'm humbled and I'm honored to be the chair of this very important board. And I know I will work with each and every one of you, both the board members and the staff members out there that I look forward to working with and meeting you individually. And I guess my question is there a time in the future that we plan on meeting face-to-face, or is this something that we will do forever online, Zoom? That's my question to the members of the board.
Mr. Chair, this is Andy Gunning, and I'll take that one. We talked about that with our PPACG board this morning as well. We're putting together all the pieces and parts to be able to host hybrid in-person meetings with some Zoom capabilities starting next month. So the June 9th PPRTA board meeting, fingers crossed, I feel 99.5% certain that we'll be in person, at least those that want to be in person, and others can Zoom in. So looking forward to seeing everybody then.
Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing everyone in person too. My next question is on these resolutions. Is that they're in the packet, and of course it has signature blocks for now myself and the vice chair and the board secretary. So is that something I need to follow through with for within the next couple of days? That's my question to the board.
Rick Sonnenberg here. Yes, Mr. Chair, for the budget, all the resolutions, the budget resolution, the core resolution. Yes, we will, since we don't have your signature stamp yet, that's an item that we will, I'll bring you the applicable pieces of paper for you to sign some samples, and then we take that and get a signature stamp. And then once we have the signature stamp, then we would not need your in-person live signature. You can send an email authorizing Bev or me as applicable to use your signature stamp. But for now, on these, a signature stamp probably would take a week to 10 days. If you're willing, I can bring the resolutions for your signature over to City Hall or wherever you'd like.
Yep, City Hall is perfect. That'll work good. And I look forward to the signature stamp. I'm used to that as a commander. Used to have one of those, so I look forward to doing that again. All right, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions across before I will ask for a motion to adjourn?
So
Swain,
moved.
Is there a second?
The Swain second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to adjourn today's PPRTA board meeting. And I want to thank you all again once and for all there. And I look forward to seeing you in the near future. The meeting is adjourned.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Never took a vote on that motion.